What's up, everybody? We'll try to be quick today. We'll try to have a fun little one for you. Some say hobby positivity continuing, but, if you're looking for that, I think for 2 episodes in a row of that, woof, I'm far removed, 2 whole days removed from doing auction recaps and to each their own and you name it, the whole deal. And the title should tell you everything you need to know. Can it all fall apart? You bet it can, even when you think it's going well. Even when you think, stuff is going the right way. If you take a little, a little bit of the top layer off, just peel a little bit, they say the onion, right? Peel a layer of the onion off, you realize you're just going to be left crying, right? It's funny, just a sports analogy of what this episode is like, what the hobby is like, right? From the outside looking in, if you don't really take a look at it, it sounds great, right? Diamondbacks, Kettle Marte for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's currently riding a 19-game hitting streak. 19-game hitting streak. The longest of his career and the longest of the major leagues this season. So you'd think, wow, this guy, what a great year he's having. Look at this. He's got the longest hit streak, 19 games. I mean, basically almost a whole month of games. He's got a hit in all of them. He's got to be doing well, right? All right. This is where you got to take a look deeper. In only 2 of those 19 games has he had more than 1 hit. 17 of those 19 games, he had 1 hit. He's batting .266 during that string. 266 during a 19-game hit streak. It's weird. His average has gone down during that hit streak from 309 to 291. He's actually lost 18 points on his average during a 19-game hit streak. Pretty crazy, right? So on the outside, it looks a certain way. Antonio Brown may have made $88 million as an NFL receiver, but he just declared for bankruptcy, allegedly. What it looks like and what it is could be 2 different things. So let me just tell you where I'm going with this. I had a long conversation with someone who owns an LCS, my local guy, because it just didn't sit with me right. The conversation we had about the MVP buybacks. I saw that piece of the game, had that awesome UFC buyback commercial with Topps. We talk about Topps doing gimmicks. It's good, right? I mean, it gets people in the store. It gets people buying the product. It gets people talking. It's just another thing, right? There's no such thing as bad press, right? I probably would not have. Maybe I would have bought 1 box, but I definitely bought a second, maybe some blasters, figuring, hey, if I get this 1 card, I get $20 just for a base card. Let's go. Anyway, my LCS, not doing it anymore. I said, well, why? He says, well, because I'm not helping Fanatics, which, is a little weird. I still don't exactly understand that, right? Other than just, sometimes maybe being a diaper baby, right? But you're not helping Fanatics, you're helping yourself, right? Like, I had hundreds of dollars worth of MVP buybacks from baseball, and I wound up having to take them to another store. That's money I would have spent in your store that you would have got. Why not do it? And he went on a little bit of a Fanatics run. I'm not gonna call it a rant. I'm the ranter, right? But we're gonna boil it down to 2 things, right? And these 2 things are the question of, can it all fall apart? And by all, I mean this run, this retail version, this Fanatics version, not the breaking, and definitely not the hobby overall, right? Where it's, you're seeing Michael Jordan cards set record prices. You're seeing vintage cards set record prices again. You're seeing some, in the hobby, the old style hobby, the traditional hobby that's been around for a long time. You're seeing it, it's fine. It's healthy. The card prices for legit stuff are healthy. But the interesting thing that, I was told was the thing he hears the most now when he gets in a product that's made by Fanatics is he puts the product in his store for a price, and everybody who comes in asks the price and then asks, can you do this price instead and match what Fanatics has on their site? He says, Fanatics to me they're not a team player. They're not trying to help me in my store. They are actually a competitor to me, because I can't mark up my product. Okay, interesting. We've talked about this. It's the reason Fanatics came into the space. And what I said to this guy was, well, maybe your markup was too much. what kind of markup is enough? You remember what you were doing? I mean, you were paying nothing for these prison boxes and selling them for $1,000. You were getting hundreds of percent on this, 200, 300%, 2x, 3x. I mean, you were killing it. You can't be greedy. And he said he understands, that market is gone, and he's not expecting that. He claims that the Fanatics markup is less than 15% when all is said and done. And that it's difficult to operate in a profit with that kind of a markup. He's not getting the product he used to get, but even if he was, he's not making enough per box and per case to make it worthwhile. And here's where it's interesting, right? And this is, can it all fall apart? I said to him, well, walk me through this, right? And he said basically that he is a clearinghouse for the manufacturer of cards. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, they charge my credit card, the cards come in, and I have to move them. Obviously, I can't mark them up so much because people aren't going to buy them, because now the website has the same product at a price that if I try to sell it for more than that, people are not going to buy, right? People are not going to buy it because they'll just buy it directly from Topps, directly from Fanatics. I said, all right, well, that leads me to a couple quick questions, right? They can buy it from you and have it in hand, right? So that's easy. Obviously, same price, sell it. He says, yeah, but what happens when there's a release that people don't want to buy? So right now, these releases come out, people are buying them. They're either buying them from me at the store, or they're going to go online and buy them at, Topps. So the demand is there for the cards. He says, but me, I have to sell these things at basically a price that I'm either breaking even or I'm making 11%. It seems to be the magic number. Making 11% on my stuff. And I'm not getting a ton, so it's not like 11%, really that much. But I have to sell it, pay off my credit card as fast as I can, so that the next week, the next thing that hits my credit card, I have to pay for. And he says, I'm just basically a clearinghouse for all of the product that comes in from Topps that I can't really say no to. We got some of this coming your way. Okay, we can give you more of this. Okay, and I have to sell it. I have to keep churning it. And this is all well and good as long as you can keep churning it. Of course, Topps and Fanatics have no problem with this. They're selling their product at a price. They're getting their price from all of their LCSs. All of the places that they're, selling it to, and the shops are selling it, and the shops are continuing to take the stuff. But what happens if there's a stinker of a release? But what happens if enough people buy the product at these prices, which are a little more than they were, and people aren't buying it anymore? You have a slight downturn, economic downturn. Well, I said to the LCS, well, what happens? He goes, well, then there's real problems. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, if I can't sell through the product, I don't have the money to buy the next one that they're forcing me to buy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a logjam. And if the product is not good enough, well, then not only are people not buying it from me, but they're also not buying it directly from Fanatics and Topps on their website. So then what happens? The price comes down. I have dead stock that I can't sell, and I have to keep, reducing my price to match up with the price that, it's being reduced. So this is an interesting thing because it's sort of just teetering on the brink of that. It's one or two bad releases away from a lot of stores not being in a really good spot. Now, somebody might be listening to this and say, well, so what? Those are not stores that are on the brink, the stores that are one release at a time. They're living paycheck to paycheck, basically, release to release to pay their credit card, are not the kind of stores that Fanatics wants. Okay. It's an interesting conversation, right? Because I think you can see that there are a select few that are getting a whole lot of product. And look around, you'll see a certain number of breakers out there that are doing 100 case breaks of Bowman. How much of that Bowman did they make? A bunch of breakers doing 100 case breaks of Bowman. Not $100, 100 case break. There's just case after case after case. No shortage of it. And it's an interesting thing to watch because are we headed towards a situation where there's just a few people that you're buying from, a few places that you're buying from, a few breakers, a few big LCSs? It is an interesting thing to watch. And it's a little scary when you hear it from that standpoint, right? Because the LCS, that's where I go every Friday and pick up cards and break with my son. I guess maybe I'm going to have to start ordering directly from THWC and factor in shipping times and all the other rest of the stuff if he goes the way of the dodo. Now, that's 11 minutes. The last couple are going to be, so what? Maybe my LCS should fall apart. Maybe a lot of them should. Maybe they are being a little greedy. Maybe they are, longing for a time where you were able to mark the prices up and get as much as you wanted to and offshore it, sell it to other places who are selling it also, and act almost like a mini middleman distributor yourself. And that gravy train has come to an end. And is that the worst thing in the world? You'd like to think that if you're, arguing it the other way, that a company like Fanatics is able to come up with what we might call dynamic pricing. Pricing that they know this is the price for this product that the consumer is willing to spend. And if they go much higher than that, they're not going to be able to sell it all. If they go lower than that, the secondary is going to be marked up too much. And they have an interesting line to toe as well, right? Because we as consumers we're an interesting bunch of folks also, right? We want to get the product, we want it cheap, but then we want the cards that come out of it to all be worth $1 million. We don't want the product to be expensive, because then when the cards come out and not worth anything, we feel like we're duped. I mean, there's got to be a middle ground for us also. It's an interesting thing, and I got to tell you, I'll be here to watch it because why the hell not? It's the best hobby in the world, and I love my cards. I'm curious to see how this plays out, because if you were to take a snapshot of how people got their cards 10 years ago, then 5 years ago, now, each one of those snapshots is very different. The model being utilized now by Fanatics / the breaking model it's come a huge way in the last 10 years, definitely in the last 5 years, And the squeeze is mostly put on those smaller LCSs. Those LCSs that might not be, falling in line with the new way of doing business. I wonder if the next 5 years sees a continued trend towards that and squeezing out of a lot more of these shops, a lot more of these, folks that are not going to be that hobby store 2.0. And I guess my hope is that THWC, Fanatics, you keep putting out releases that, have some demand to them, because if you don't, it seems like, you're just waiting to push one domino and the rest of them fall. It's going to be interesting to watch. A couple of other little notes here as we try to wrap this episode up. I hate private buyers. I hate it. I can't stand it. I think it's one of the worst things in the world. I hope to one day be a multi-millionaire and be able to operate in the shadows and not want people, to know who I am and buying it. But I always thought that the better private piece was not letting someone know how much you paid for something. That way, if you wanted to sell it later on, you were able to sell it, because no one knew what that comp was. No one knew what that last sale price was. But we're seeing private transactions where what stays private is just who's buying and selling. The price is everywhere, right? The price is all over the place. The price is being publicized by the only news network that ever existed in the hobby. There's never ever been a news network before like the last month. But now there is one. Only one. And the only one that the hobby will ever need was out there billboarding a $925,000 PSA 9 sale. I don't know who the hell bought that card. The news organization didn't say who bought it. They didn't say who sold it. I know who sold it. I don't know. I don't know who bought it, though. I don't know if it's an LLC. I don't know if it's an arm's length deal. I know what you all know, which is it's private. Well, in public or in private, I think that stinks. I think it actually sets us back. I think that if you were to take a poll, more than half the people in the hobby would say that that's bull. More than half the people in the hobby would say that they don't believe that that sale actually happened. Because why hide? Why treat it privately? Why not shout it from the rooftops that you were able to acquire this grail? I'm sure they have reasons. I'm sure they do. But in this space, where we see more shenanigans on the daily basis than anybody else, we do. It is crazy, the stuff that goes on here. I find it hard to believe the private bidder is back. Because when we have private transactions for these prices, more often than not, the card comes out a couple years later and sells for significantly less. That's not market conditions. If you ask half the hobby and took a poll, they'd say it's because it never really sold for that price anyway. And that was just some headline craziness. Maybe a whole bunch of PSA 8s will come out now and sell for higher prices. And we'll all understand what's being done. Who knows? Maybe. I just got to tell you from a personal standpoint, the whole thing could be above board. There could be a buyer who wants to remain private, a seller who wants to remain private. But it sure is funny that as private as they wanted to say, the story was posted everywhere. Like Sebastian Maniscalco, if you want to keep it private, keep it private. But you weren't keeping it private. No. You were broadcasting it on the only news network out there. Anyway, horrible impersonation. But you understand, I get angry about this. Because for folks to come in at 10x and do all this other fun stuff, all the other buzzwords, right? Don't we need to be viewed as trustworthy? Like all these other asset classes that are out there. Imagine NVIDIA released their earnings today, but they kept them private. Just trust us. Trust us. We earned this money. We're not going to really show you the reports, but we earned. Look at we're $26 billion. We earned it. We promise. No reports, no support, no documentation. Just signed by private. No one would take it seriously. It would be a joke. But here, we're shouting it from the rooftops. Clip Media is doing an article about it. Acquire, I love you guys. You know that. But give me a break. The private bidder stuff, wow. There are a few things that annoy me. That is one. And there's an episode for you. If you stay till the end, you got one heck of a cage rant there. I'm sure I'm going to piss some people off, but shit happens. Talk to you guys soon. Later.